Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our series of. There's an echo. Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, it's good.
I'm still hearing my own voice. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to International Coaches Week and our very own episode of Ancient Indian Wisdom for Transformational Coaching. My name is Prosperity, and I have been working around, I have an experience of around 10 to 12 years with Standard Chartered, Fiat, and Chrysler. And around 10 years ago, I happened to knock on the door of Alpha Stars. And this is obviously completely by mistake, completely a fluke that it happened because I was looking for something in neurology, in psychology. I happened to come across the term NLP. And I came to Alpha Stars only because the date smashed. And this in my life has turned out to be one of those mistakes out of which big inventions are made, like a post-it or a microwave oven. It has really changed my life. So thank you so much. I thank, of course, Sir and Ma'am and the universe for guiding me to Alpha Stars. This journey was not possible of unlayering myself. Various layers of completely, it's just not something that has happened 10 years ago. It is a continuous process of unlayering myself. And this would never be possible without the guidance and without the blessings of my teachers, of my mentors and my gurus, Sat and Siri Khalsa. To me, they are not just family. To me, they're not just my gurus, they are family and sometimes even more than family, right? So we are all three together and it's a beautiful journey. So let me tell you something about them, about Siri Khalsa and Sat Khalsa. ICF MCC coaches, NLP trainers, martial movement trainers, Kundalini yoga teachers, um, leadership development trainers, and whatnot. There are so many things that they aspire to do and that they actually do, and the kind of change and transformation that they make. But let me share with you some simple stories that I have in my mind today that probably many are not aware of, or many are not party to. Siri often says that she goes for healings to Indian Spinal Injury Center and she heals people and she counsels people over there to help them come out from whatever trauma that they have gone through. But trust me when I say this, one of the aspects of Siri is that she can actually help somebody when they're in a crisis or when they need help and beyond whatever is possible for her, beyond a regular thing that you would find anyone doing. Let me share one example with you. One at one point of time, a cousin of our office boy just fell from the roof, and it was in his village. And of course, he was very, very upset, and he didn't know what to do. Instead of giving him a lead and just saying, "Okay, you go over there," and just doing that, Siri took it upon herself to make sure that this boy is cured. And she spoke with the doctors over there in the village. She spoke to the mother and the father and everyone involved, and she would do it continuously. It was like a complete project for her from morning 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock at night or whatever time it was. And she would call up and say, "Okay, you go to the doctor. I'm telling you, तुम doctor के पास जाओ. मैं बात करती doctor से," because they did not know how to speak to the doctor. And she would just talk to the doctor. And when she would call the doctor and she would say, "मैं दिल्ली से बोल रही हूँ," it sounded like मैं prime minister office से बोल रही हूँ. So that was exactly her tonality. There was no doubt in that. मैं दिल्ली से बोल रही हूँ. It was absolutely going all out. And thankfully, the boy is cured now. Of course, her effort and the blessings always is there. And what should I tell you about her, sir? Beyond whatever credentials is there, his presence itself speaks so much. He can just be in that moment. And from anywhere that he is, if you need that guidance, he can immediately take that coach approach and the awakener approach beyond coaching, that presence. he can take and guide you to whatever is required to be done. So thank you so much, so much, so much for being over here and in this journey with us. Uh, what I am really curious about today, in fact, something I really want you to share with everyone when we are talking about ancient Indian wisdom for transformational coaching, is the story of who is your mother? Do you know your mother? So please do tell us what was it behind? What made Bandler ask you, Dr. Richard Bandler ask you, do you know your mother? And what did he mean? And that entire thing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a very one of the very odd out but yet very awakening moment of life. That when Richard Bandler came to India in 1995, that's the only time he was here, and me and Siri happened to be very friendly with him and his wife, and this was creating a little bit kind of raising eyebrows for people, that how come these people are too close, and as a result of that, during the workshop when we were assisting team, then people would not kind of cooperate like that to us. They will not give us complete insight to be shared with the audience, because Bandler's style is that when he comes out and he speaks, then his main trainers give induction or guidance to the assisting trainers, and in turn they clarify to the small groups. So what I found that I'm not getting complete insight from that. They are not that cooperative because of us, our close affinity with Dr. Bender. It happens, and then we were feeling quite short of, and I was feeling quite embarrassed. And then because from me the audience was very less before me who were learning, and I was trying to prove myself to Bandler that, as if it is not me, it is the Indians. Okay. And I happened to ask him a very long question, that you've been in India, what do you think about Indians? And in fact, I wanted him to say something that should support me, but he started a long story, and he started rather telling me and asking me that why do people ask this kind of question? I don't know, but I have met only two kind of people in my life, and asking the same question, that when they are exposed before a phenomena and something very wise or great idea, they seem to be asking only one question, and that question is how it is possible. So one kind of people ask it from the paradigm of how it's possible to reject it, and the other kind of people ask it from how it's possible. So let's make it possible. Okay, and well, it's something very curious, something very interesting. So he said these are the two kind of people available throughout the planet, irrespective of the country, nation, caste, community, culture. So the same thing is here too. And this is where to turn my mind towards that I should feel more empowered and rather deal with any challenge that I have before me, even at this moment. How should I make it possible that, irrespective of all the odds, I should be able to address people, seek guidance from the people who are supposed to give me, and do not cut excuse or limit my mind with that they are not doing it, they are not giving it, and they are not taking it. This is where he said that, do you know your mother? I said, yes, I know my mother. And I was also thinking in my mind that for fathers, people can mistake sometime, but mother, they always know that who is the mother. And to be on the lighter side, please forgive me. And I kept looking at him. And then he suddenly said, yes, I know. I said, no, you don't know. And I was even more stunned that how is he claiming that I don't know my mother? Then he said, you know that your real mother is your culture, your ancient heritage. And no matter who's your biological mother or father, they have all acquired this deep wisdom. And if this is your mother, so like in India, we always say that this is the mother goddess. Like even Saraswati, the goddess of education, the wealth, the sort of the Lakshmi, okay, and the goddess of courage, like the Kali, like that. We have the goddess is defined like that because we believe that everything comes from that mother power. And no matter who your mother is, in fact, the real mother is the wisdom, culture, the kind of environment that we have all around us. He said, you have so rich environment. And he began asking me, do you know Savitri of Aurobindo? Do you know Geetam? Do you know Yoga-Somatic? And I was stunned that how come this man who seems to be a pram, who seems to be kind of a hippie kind of a outlook, and who's talking so much logical things, and he's asking me such deep question. And do you know Rabindra's music? And I was so stunned that he seems to be having fair idea about several things, what stand behind the human being. And this is where he tried to turn our attention towards the deep heritage or rich heritage, I would say, and ancient wisdom, the sacred ancient wisdom that we carry on this planet and on this earth, that and in this nation, India. And that was a turning point. So this is what made him ask this question, because he also felt one pain, because his, his wife used to go every day morning for shopping, and people would refer that, has driver come in, is driver there, so driver took it. So he didn't like calling driver a driver. He said, you know that you have such a rich heritage, and every name that you choose, like you have prosperity now, okay, and we have Satyan Siri. He said, every name you choose has something significant to do with your consciousness. And India has been the land where from this kind of wisdom has originated, and why people have forgotten. So he was feeling too much pain, and that's what asked him that, do you know your mother? Because he seems to be thinking that here no one cares that what our true wisdom, actual wisdom, sacred and ancient knowledge we have and we are born in, and how should we carry this legacy. So my answer may be longer, but there was no shortcut to the question you asked me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been wanting for you to share this answer with everyone for a very long time. So the moment I got the opportunity, I just, took it. So from there, I have it actually when you're sharing about Dr. Richard Bandler talking so much about the Indian wisdom and the culture and the scriptures and everything else. And I know even trainers and the biggest of trainers like Tony Robbins, they use the Indian wisdom in their workshops. They use the mantras in their workshops as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very curious question from my side, Siri. What makes us Indians not adopt it, and what makes the Westerners adopt it? And keeping it a little bit more specific, let me just add a little bit to that question. So when I was working around in Fiat and Chrysler, or when I was working in HR in the corporate world, I used to somewhere believe in this Indian wisdom, but never in the teachers that is there. So it was always that there is some fraud that is happening. No, it cannot happen like that. There was always a conflict. There is a very slight belief, but there is more of a disbelief that is there. Right? And you have said that in the course, in a motion coaching, you've actually adapted the yogic wisdom a lot to help the people connect to their beingness. Okay. So how does one? So there are two parts of the question. What makes India not adopt this wisdom that the rest of the world is adopting? Uh, and how will we actually get people to or educate people that this is the right way or this is the right teaching and not uh, go away from it or scare from it?
Okay. So if I've understood your question correctly, why the first is that why Indians are not adopting and why the Western part of the world adopts it very quickly. I think, because if I go back to the culture, what is coming to my mind is that in India, it's like it is already existing, it's already there. But unfortunately, when we're talking of our education system, it does not too much emphasis on the ancient Indian wisdom, though we do it in bits and pieces, but the more focus is about studies, about learning history, geography, science, and all those kind of concepts. But then I think it's, if I see now versus what it was earlier, people are still adopting it now. They are much more open because probably, the Western world is much more scientific. So what they did was they have taken up the Eastern science, they have done a lot of research work and made them into more of a strategic approach and a more of a structured approach. And then when they say, okay, of course, yoga was adopted longer time, but then whatever the yoga now, what they teach, okay, this can do this. So Indians have done a backward research on it, and now the people are much more open to receive it. Reason is because we are either too logical. We know these things are existing, but nobody has ever taught us rightly what is the meaning of it. Nobody has ever taught us that what does Veda mean, what does Upanishad mean, what is Gita is all about. But since it's coming from the West in a more structured way, people have become much more open to it. Yet, according to my knowledge, no school or college is still teaching this basic knowledge of how a human being should live, how a human being should behave. What is the kind of teachings involved when you are in stress? What are you supposed to do with yourself? Nobody is teaching all that, which is a very basic of a human nature. So we are absolutely not in touch with that, right? So that's why this science you has India is rich with such science, but it is not being used by any of the individual because we are not knowing it. There's no awareness of it. So books are still present. So we might read it. I might read it from my own interest. Okay, let me understand what is this Upanishad, what is this Veda. But then how do I imbibe it? There is still no teacher or a guru who's telling me how do I imbibe it in my day-to-day life, right? But whereas if you look at the Western part of the world, they took this science, they understood how the human behavior is. So when Dr. Bandler told us that, have you read the scriptures? So he says, I have taken a lot of it from the Indian scriptures, which you do not even understand. And that is very rightly said. Because when we amalgamated both the concepts in the InnerMost Shift coaching, we understood the ancient wisdom, but we also took it from NLP and the brain science to give it a structure. So today, if I have a mental block, what do I do with it? Where do I go? If you see in the ancient Indian times, people would go to the, probably the oldest person in the family, and they would still kind of solace, okay, it's happened, don't worry, it'll be all right. But today, if I go to my father, he's already stressed because he does not know handle his own stress. So what is he going to tell me? Even if he tells me, I said, look, look, dad, you're already stressed. How can I do this? You cannot do it. So there was that time was not, people have not understood the part of the learning which is in the Indian heritage. But now when I put it in a structure, okay, if somebody's got mental stuck, what is the structure of experience? And if you're doing this, and if you break this structure and if you put something else here, you'll be able to break this pattern. So it becomes much more logical. So people are able to imbibe it because I'm giving them a simple technique. So I think one of the reasons which I understand is about the learning and adaptability and not getting trained. But now since it's coming from the West, so Indians are also researching it. So what do I do if I'm feeling, uh, not comfortable, if I'm feeling too stressed? Okay, best focus on your breath. Let's do meditation. Let's do something. People are trying to, work on it. So I don't know, at least in my experience with so many years, even if working with the hospital, with doctors, nurses, and patients, I haven't really seen anybody, if I'm feeling stressed, let me sit down and let me just focus on my breath. Still, nobody does that when the time comes. So we are still working as, a normal human being of, responding and reacting to people because it's not got imbibed in us. So I think that is one of the reasons what I felt, why it's not there in spite of so much of rich heritage, so much of knowledge, so much of wisdom, you're not able to imbibe it, right? And I'm sorry if you can just repeat your second part of the question.
What will help people realize which is the right training or teaching or from where to take it? So if we say if we have to tell somebody InnerMostShift coaching is the right one, and it's not somebody who has not read any of the Vedas and probably not even Gita completely or any of the Puranas or Vedas for that matter, and has started teaching, just by looking at a PowerPoint presentation, vis-a-vis you who has actually read all the Vedas and the scriptures and have such deep knowledge. So how does a person who does not understand differentiate between the right and the wrong?
Um, Okay, so I think I've partially understood your question because the voice was breaking. So the question is that how do people understand if they do not have the knowledge, and how do they understand where to get the teachings from one, and then what is right and wrong? You're asking, right?
Yes,
See,
the same one.
yeah. So okay. So what I understand from here is, like still, if I read, let's say, if I read a Veda or if I read a Purana, reading is getting the knowledge, right? You understand this like an information coming to you. But again, the question is, how do I put it into my lifestyle? How do I really imbibe it? So I think we need somebody who can be a real teacher who really understands the deeper knowledge of it. So what we have done, I can speak from my experience and the what we have done in our amalgamation of the InnerMost Shift coaching, where you have the Eastern and the Western concept. So of course, sir is very, very well read, and we were very fortunate of being with many, many spiritual teachers of the olden times and also of recent times, like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and even reading the cell biology. So what we have done is we have tried to understand a more deeper concept and also use the latest concept and put it together, so that if somebody does not even understand what Veda and Purana is, but they understand their own human self, right? You understand your own human behavior, you understand your own human, system that is happening inside your body. So if, for example, if somebody is saying something, and I am a person who have learned not to react, but if the reaction is happening inside my body, still it's a reaction, but I'm not aware of it. So what we have done is we have tried to amalgamate this science and make people aware of the experience what they're living in the body, because it's first about understanding about your own self, then going outside and preaching or understanding people. So once you understand that's what's happening to you as a result of a stimulus, what is the reaction happening inside your body, and how you will understand this, and how you will understand what's happening also in your whole system, whether your heartbeat is going up, your breath is going different, or what's happening in your mental thoughts. And then using more of the Eastern and the Western science, amalgamating it and putting it. So let's say a simple, for example, reason: if I become aware of my breath, so when something happens and suddenly my breath goes up, and if I'm becoming aware of my breath, I understand that this is not the way my breathing should be. And the moment I become aware, the breath automatically slows down. That's a human perfect system. We have a biological system. But nevertheless, it can't come to you in just one go. It's a practice. So when you keep practicing of your awareness inside, that is for me is using the knowledge, whatever it is coming from the various scriptures, and imbibing it, because that's the most difficult part of it. Today, even if for example, it's a very famous said in Gita when Krishna said, keep doing your work and don't worry about the result. We cannot follow it, right? If I'm working in a corporate and I'm given a target to meet, and I say, look, I'm working to my boss and I'm not worried about the result, he says, okay, babe, pack your bags and go. You can't do this, right? But the other way of putting it in your system is, because let's say if I'm a salesperson and I'm not able to achieve my target, ultimately I'm getting too stressed. And I have to understand, if I get too stressed, my mind is not going to think in the right direction and I cannot perform to the level which is required. So the system learning is from the scriptures is, even if I'm not getting the desired result, how do I maintain my calm from inside, so that my brain can be more creative to generate more choices, and maybe need take the help of my boss to get my target met, right? So we have to learn
Right.
this, the learning from the scripture, so that we can adopt it in our way of life, which has to be more easier. So we have tried to do that in this system, that even if you don't read the scriptures, but following these simple things, keeping your mind calm, keeping yourself cool, and becoming aware of your whole body experience, you know how to handle your own situations of life. So for me, that is the amalgamation of the two. And if somebody comes as a novice also, they just understand and learn it. And that's the the lot of experiences that we had in our, when I'm coaching people also, people said, yo, I never thought that I could be just so calm. I will not react. But it has happened suddenly when I'm doing it. So, and in fact, recently one of the student was sharing with me. He says, I was working on a very big project, and he's heading the sales of one of the corporates. And he says, I was working on this particular the what do you call this client for almost like 3 days. I made the whole presentation, but and he called me up. He said, Siri, today I did not get the proposal. It did not come to us, but went to some other vendor. But for the first time in my life, it did not disturb me. I was not perturbed by it. I said, okay, it is not meant for me. And he says that is one of the
Wonderful.
biggest learnings I've got from my
So
life.
wonderful. And when you're talking about all this, it actually takes me to the next book that is about to be published, The Best Truly. It has a lot of wisdom about how to be in your presence, how to monitor your own breath and thoughts and thinking, and just be the complete being that you are. Uh, and not talking about the scriptures, but about your beingness and how you can be the very best that you are, right? So thank you so much for the answer. And of course, a very quick way that people can actually connect to this is just by reading the book, which is about to be published. Uh, you know, um, you also mentioned something um, about Krishna, about how he said that just do your work and not focus on the outcome. And it's just that he is also being called by our esteemed external affairs minister, uh, the best diplomat the world has ever seen. Okay, so what qualities of interactional excellence, sir, does Krishna possess that he is so good as a diplomat? Of course, there is a lot to learn from him, but what qualities of interactional excellence does he possess?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
See, the interactional excellence is about understanding that how does how will my interaction help people to act in the direction that I'm aspiring and attain more excellence, more perfection, more quality in them. Now, when we studied several scriptures and gospels, I would say, interactions happening between the masters and disciples, and we found that the central character between every person who is interacting with the other person is then an awakener within. So he's trying to awaken something. Something is already present, and the person is trying to awaken that person to that phenomenon. Like, for example, I see always a simple thing to understand is that gravity is always present, but we have become awakened to it. So we have not discovered it, we have not invented it. So likewise, every master is a awakener deep within, and then the person has to be a seeker, has to be seeking it. And this central character is present between two people who interact with each other. And that's where you found that all of these people, no matter which gospel, which interaction you go through, it could be Savitri, it could be Yoga-Somatic, it could be Gita, it could be even Bible, you can Quran. The how people interacted was based on certain virtues they possessed. And one of the virtue was that they they always operated from a sense of them being competent, and they didn't touch things which they were not competent. And then they also assessed the seeker, that how much seeker is ready and wanting to progress in this direction. And similarly, when despite the person is wanting to move in the direction, they understood, okay, then do you agree that uh, you will act on what you discover, you will move in the direction. So they were very, very good agreement makers. They did act like that. So even Krishna to not do that agreement, that yes, I agree to seek your advice. I agree to seek you. You drive me. You be my sarthi. Okay. So I am there. So the very act of letting him drive his cart, it means that he is letting him drive, and then he is seeking. So in this we found that these 10 virtues, that ability to create trust, listening. Now listening come from that in India it is a tradition of shrutis, that you must listen. And few things only by shrutis, by listening and adopting. And you have to understand. So listening was a very wonderful part in it. And then inquiry, questioning, jigyasa, okay, is curiosity. And similarly, keeping the communication purpose and not letting your communication go here. Why? Okay, be meaningful and make your whole interaction worth it. So these are the common virtues we found that are present in all ancient evolution, and we summed them up, and that became the model of international excellence. And we believe that whether somebody is a diplomat or is a parent or a child, this is a single quality everyone must possess. So we call that not IEEQ. I would say that that interactional excellence is this IE. That is okay. So how much people can live with it? Because I think if we learn to interact and after that introspect, so then the awakener and seeker become within. So everybody has a awakener within, a seeker within, and that is where the reflection and introspection would lead to. So interaction, reflection, introspection, and then my movement, action in that direction is what is the core essence of interactional excellence. And I think if we everyone start focusing on it, what am I saying? What will it mean? What will it do to the other person? And this will improve whole world, I believe. So this is what is my message from this interactional excellence.
Thank you so much for that wonderful piece of uh, wisdom that you have just shared with us. On that note, we are already on the end of our 30 minutes short spree. Uh, on and it's a very I don't know what word to use now. It's really wonderful to know that the seeker and the awakener is within. And from there, we can seek an awakener outside as well, who can help us thus evolve furthermore. Thank you so much, Siri ma'am and Sat sir, for being over here. Thank you, ICF, for organizing this wonderful International Coaches Week. And for everyone who's watching, if you have had any questions, we'll definitely do our best to answer it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
Prosperity. Thank you, everyone present. Bye bye.